Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters in faith today, I came to remind you of something powerful. Change is not your enemy. Change is evidence that God is still shaping, still molding, still working in your life. Some of you have been praying for God to elevate you, but when He starts shifting things around, you get scared. You pull back, you hesitate, but hear me. You cannot pray for transformation and cling to comfort. God doesn't move in your life to destroy you. He moves to develop you. There are moments when God will close a door so loudly it echoes in your spirit. Not to harm you, but to get your attention. Sometimes He removes people, opportunities, habits, or environments not because you did something wrong, but because you have outgrown them. You cannot carry old weights into a new season. Change will disrupt you. It will stretch you. It will challenge your emotions and confuse your logic. But it will also elevate you, because every shift in your life is a signal that God is preparing you for something greater. Don't fear the unknown. Don't fear transition. Don't fear the place where you have never walked before. The unknown is where God reveals His greatest work. It is where faith breathes. It is where destiny unfolds. So when change shows up at your door, don't resist it. Don't run from it. Don't bury yourself in anxiety. Lift your hands, lift your head, and declare, God, I trust you in this transition. Because the same God who guided you through yesterday is the God who is shaping your tomorrow. You're not losing, you're evolving, you're not being abandoned. You're being aligned. Don't be afraid of change. God is at work in your life, and when God is working, nothing can stop what He's about to do. Change is not a crisis, it is a calling. Many people misunderstand the shaking, the shifting, the unexpected upheavals that come into their lives. They interpret these moments as signs that something is going wrong, that life is falling apart, that the ground is slipping beneath their feet. But what if the very thing you're calling a crisis is actually God calling you to rise? What if the disruption you fear is the invitation you've been praying for? When God begins to move in your life, He rarely announces it with comfort. He doesn't whisper soft assurances before He rearranges the pieces. No, He steps into the very structure you built, the routine you became attached to, the comfort zone you settled in, and He starts shifting things. And that shift can feel like a storm. It can feel like loss. It can feel like uncertainty. But that doesn't mean it's destruction. It means God is preparing you for a greater dimension of purpose. Sometimes the only way God can elevate you is by agitating the environment around you. You don't move when you're comfortable. You don't stretch when everything is predictable. You don't grow when the atmosphere is familiar. Growth requires movement, and movement often begins with discomfort. So when everything starts shaking, when doors you depended on close, when relationships change, when the path ahead becomes unfamiliar, it may not be a crisis telling you to retreat. It may be a calling inviting you to step forward. God often hides purpose inside of problems. He hides direction inside disruption. You might be praying for clarity, and instead God gives you change. Because clarity doesn't come from staying where you are. It comes from moving to where God is leading. You might not understand the timing. You might not understand the method. But you can trust the intention. God is not out to harm you. He is out to build you. And everything He allows into your life is tied to a greater purpose that is still unfolding. You may be asking, why now, why this, why me? But think about it. Would you have ever discovered your strength if everything had remained the same? Would you have uncovered your gifts if life had never challenged you? Would you have heard God's voice if the noise of your comfort had not been interrupted? Seasons shift to make room for what is coming, and God will not let you stay in a place that no longer aligns with the destiny He designed for you. Change is not the end. It is the threshold of a beginning. You are not being pushed away from something. You are being pulled into something. Every great story of transformation begins with a moment when life refuses to stay the same. And the same is true for you. God sees the version of you that you have not met yet. He sees the potential you have not tapped into, the strength you have not used, the places you have not gone. And He uses change to wake up the parts of you that have been sleeping. So the next time life shifts unexpectedly, don't label it as a crisis. Don't rush to fear, don't assume loss. Lean in, listen, pay attention, because you may be standing in the doorway of the very answer you prayed for. Change is not breaking you. It is beckoning you. It is God's way of saying, you were never meant to stay where you are. I'm calling you higher. There are seasons in life when God begins to remove things, opportunities, and even people, not because you failed, not because you are unworthy, and not because your life is falling apart, but because you have outgrown what once fit you. Growth is quiet. It happens in private. Day by day, without noticing it, you stretch, you mature, you shift in perspective, and you begin to rise internally. And while you may not be aware of how much you've changed, the environment around you starts to reveal it. What once satisfied you no longer nourishes you. What once felt right now feels tight. This is not a sign of loss. It is a sign of transformation. When God sees that you have reached the capacity of a certain chapter, He starts moving things around. You may feel like life is taking pieces away, but God is actually taking pressure off you. You may think something is being subtracted, when in reality, God is making space. Space for strength, space for clarity, space for new people, new opportunities, and new assignments that align with who you are becoming. God does not let you remain connected to what can no longer carry the weight of your destiny. And sometimes the things that fall away were never meant to accompany you into the next level you're stepping into. We often cling to what is familiar because it feels safe, even when it no longer supports who we are. But God loves you too much to let you stay in something that limits your growth. So He allows certain relationships to fade. He lets old habits die. He closes doors you once depended on. He lets the noise quiet down so you can hear the whisper of your purpose. What you think is being taken from you might actually be something God is gently removing, because it can't survive the altitude He is lifting you to. There are moments when the removal hurts. You don't understand it. It feels like rejection. It feels like abandonment. But God is not abandoning you. He is aligning you. He is protecting you from attachments that would drain you in the next season. He is shielding you from connections that look good to you but are not good for you. You may cry over what left, but one day you will thank God that it did. Because everything God removes, He replaces with something stronger, something healthier, and something designed for your future, not your past. Think about this. A tree sheds its leaves not because it is dying, but because it is preparing. It releases what it no longer needs so it can conserve energy for new growth. If a tree held onto dead leaves, it would break under the weight of what no longer serves it. The same is true for you. Sometimes God lets the dead leaves of your life fall, so that new life can break through. So don't mourn every ending. Don't label every departure as a disaster. Don't hold on to what God is trying to release from your hands. What exits your life is often evidence that you've stepped into a new dimension. You are evolving, and God is faithful enough to walk you through that evolution by removing anything that cannot sustain where He is taking you. You are not breaking apart, you are being pruned, and pruning is not punishment, it is preparation. God removes what you outgrow because He sees the promise you haven't reached yet. He knows what you need to carry it. And He will not let you stay attached to anything too small for the destiny He placed inside you. There are moments in life when everything you planned, everything you expected, everything you thought was secure suddenly shifts. The job you counted on changes direction. The relationship you trusted breaks. The opportunity you prayed for is delayed. The path that once looked straight becomes unfamiliar and uncertain. And in those moments, it's easy to assume something has gone terribly wrong. But what you call disruption, God often calls preparation. What looks like disorder to you may be divine order rearranging itself in ways you cannot yet see. Sometimes God cannot elevate you until He interrupts the rhythm you've become comfortable living in. Comfort can become a cage, quiet, familiar, and deceptively limiting. You may not realize how attached you've become to routines that keep you stagnant. So God, in His wisdom, allows something to shake loose. He permits a disruption not to destroy your life, but to shift your direction. Because when everything is stable, you don't look for new doors. But when things start breaking apart, you begin searching, asking, seeking. And that is when you become open to where God is truly leading you. There are disruptions that come without warning. They knock the breath out of you. They make you question your decisions, your timing, even your purpose. But what if the shaking is the signal that God is setting something in motion? What if He's trying to move you out of a place you wouldn't leave on your own? God knows that sometimes you won't take a step until the ground under your feet becomes uncomfortable. Not because you are stubborn, but because you are human. So He uses the disruption to wake you up to the reality that where you were is too small for who you are becoming. Think of every major shift in your life. Rarely did it come wrapped in ease. Many of the blessings you have today were born out of situations you once feared. You grew because something forced you to. You discovered your resilience because something demanded it. You reached deeper into your faith because everything around you felt uncertain. Disruption has a way of pushing you into the very destiny you prayed for, but didn't know how to reach. God is strategic. He doesn't waste moments. He doesn't waste pain. He doesn't waste confusion. Even the things that blindsided you can become the very tools He uses to align you with purpose. You may think you've been pushed backward, but God often uses what feels like a setback as a launching pad. You may feel like you're losing control, but maybe you're just losing the illusion that you were supposed to control everything. And in that surrender, in that vulnerability, God's guidance becomes clearer. There are interruptions that break your pace, but save your future. Detours that look like delays, but protect your destiny. Closed doors that feel painful in the moment, but redirect your steps toward blessings you would have never found otherwise. God is not afraid to upset your plans if it means fulfilling His purpose in your life. So the next time your world shifts, don't assume it's falling apart. Don't rush to fear, don't panic, pause, look deeper. Trust that God is doing something behind the scenes, because The very thing that disrupted your life may be the setup that ushers you into your next level. This isn't chaos, it's construction. And God is building something in you, through you, and for you that will make the disruption worth it. You are not being destroyed. You are being directed. And God's setup is always greater than the enemy's setback. Transformation requires movement, and movement demands that you release what is familiar so you can step into what is destined. You cannot become who God designed you to be while clinging to who you used to be. Growth is not passive. Elevation is not accidental. Breakthrough does not arrive to those who refuse to move. Every shift God brings into your life calls you out of stillness and into momentum, into a willingness to stretch, adapt, and walk into unfamiliar territory. Often we pray for change while holding on tightly to routines, relationships, and environments that keep us stagnant. We want new results with old habits. We want new seasons but cling to old mindsets. We want God to open doors we're too afraid to walk through. But transformation never happens in a place of comfort. God reshapes your life by nudging you, pushing you, sometimes even pulling you out of the places where you've settled. Not because you're weak, but because He knows there is more for you. More potential, more purpose, more strength that has yet to be discovered. Movement doesn't always feel spiritual. Sometimes it looks like difficult decisions. Sometimes it feels like separating from what you've outgrown. Sometimes it shows up as responsibilities you didn't expect or challenges that demand more of you than you thought you had. But these moments are not burdens, they are indicators that God is stretching you. He is expanding your capacity. He is preparing you to carry blessings, responsibilities, and opportunities that require a stronger, wiser, and more disciplined version of you. When God calls you to move, He doesn't ask for perfection. He asks for obedience. He doesn't expect you to understand all the details. He expects you to take the first step. Because every transformation begins with movement. The prodigal son had to get up. Peter had to step out of the boat. Abraham had to leave his homeland. None of them saw the full picture, yet their lives changed the moment they moved. Sometimes the movement God calls you to is internal. He asks you to move in your mind, letting go of fear, doubt, insecurity, and the lies you've believed about yourself. Other times He calls you to move externally, changing environments, breaking patterns, leaving what drains you, embracing what grows you. But whether the movement is inside or outside, it always leads toward purpose. You cannot walk into a new season with old energy. You cannot enter a new level with old thinking. You cannot receive God's next blessing while clinging to yesterday's comfort. Movement breaks cycles, movement opens doors, movement activates miracles. The moment you decide to move, heaven responds. God honors those who step forward even when they're unsure, even when they're trembling, even when the path isn't clear. Because movement is a declaration of faith. There are opportunities waiting for you that will only reveal themselves once you start moving. There are people you haven't met yet, rooms you haven't walked into, gifts inside you that haven't awakened, all waiting on your willingness to move. Staying still may feel safe, but destiny is never found in safety. Destiny is discovered in obedience. So if your life feels uncomfortable right now, if things are shifting around you, if you sense that something is calling you out of what is familiar, don't fight the movement. Don't resist the pull. Don't let fear convince you to stay where God is trying to move you from. Transformation requires movement. Your movement, And once you take that step, even the smallest step, God will meet you, guide you, strengthen you, and carry you into the version of your life that has been waiting for your arrival. The unknown is where God reveals his greatest work, and yet it is the very place we fear the most. We love the comfort of clarity, the security of routine, the predictability of what we already understand. But God rarely performs his most powerful moves in the familiar. He unfolds destiny in the places where your feet have never walked, where your mind has never been, where your heart has never stretched. The unknown is not a void. It is a canvas, a place where God paints new beginnings, unexpected breakthroughs, and unimagined blessings. But to experience it, you must be willing to step into what you cannot fully see. When God calls you forward, he often gives you the destination before he reveals the path. He whispers a promise, stirs a vision, ignites a dream, but then he leads you into a place that feels uncertain. And this uncertainty is not meant to scare you. It is meant to shape you. Because if you could see everything ahead of time, you would rely on your own strength instead of his guidance. The unknown becomes a training ground, a place where faith matures and dependence deepens. It is in the unfamiliar that your trust in God becomes more than words. It becomes your anchor. Many of the miracles you read about, the testimonies you admire, the victories you celebrate, were born in the space of the unknown. Noah built an ark having never seen rain. Moses stepped into the Red Sea while the waters were still standing tall. David faced a giant he had never trained to fight. Every one of them stepped into something they could not predict, control, or fully understand, yet God showed up in ways they had never experienced before. That is the power of the unknown. It makes room for God to reveal himself in dimensions you have never witnessed. The unknown is also where God stretches your identity. It's where he pulls out strengths you didn't know you had. It's where hidden talents emerge, where dormant gifts awaken, where long-buried courage rises to the surface. You discover who you really are in the places where your comfort no longer holds you. You learn that God has placed far more inside you than you ever recognized when life was predictable. The unknown forces you to evolve not because you wanted to, but because staying the same is no longer possible. But stepping into the unknown requires surrender. It means releasing the need to control every outcome, letting go of timelines you created, and trusting that God's timing is wiser than your impatience. It means silencing the voice that says, "What if it goes wrong?" and listening instead to the voice that says, "What if this is exactly the door God prepared for you?" Faith doesn't grow in certainty. Faith grows in trust, and trust is born in the places where you cannot rely on your own understanding. You may not know every detail of what's ahead. You may not see the full picture. You may feel like you're walking through fog, taking steps with shaky confidence. But hear this: God is not waiting for you at the finish line. He is walking with you through every step. He has already prepared the path. He has already set the right people in place. He has already aligned the opportunities, the resources, and the breakthroughs. What feels unknown to you is already fully known to him. So don't fear the territory you haven't traveled. Don't shrink back because you don't have all the answers. Don't delay obedience while waiting for details. The unknown is not a threat. It is an invitation to witness God in a new way. an invitation to experience growth you didn't know you needed, an invitation to step into a future that has been prepared long before you arrived. The unknown is where God does his greatest work, and it may be exactly where he is calling you right now. Step forward, trust the process, and let God reveal what has been waiting for you all along.